Manual. At the core of a well-designed human resource policy is a keen awareness of government-mandated regulations. Gather information on local, state, and federal government regulations impacting your organization and compliance in your organization. It's also important to have an experienced employment attorney review your final policies. Seek legal assistance or assistance from local, state, or federal agencies to make certain your legal interpretation and decisions are correct for your organization. Note that regulations can change frequently, so make sure you keep your policies up to date. Now let's move on to ensuring consistency in people management through strong communication and application of your policy in implementation and administration. Here's a suggested process for managing your human resource policy. First, implement policy through the development of procedures to support that policy. Second, communicate policy to the organization effectively. Third, reevaluate and revise your policy to meet current needs of the organization. Make sure both existing and new employees receive copies of new or updated handbooks and policies. Establish a method for distribution. For new employees, this should be no later than day one onboarding. Make sure your handbook is available electronically and in hard copy for ease of access to all employees. Online versions of handbooks ensure that the most current policy is always available and easy to access. An important aspect of managing policy is to make sure that employees sign a policy acknowledgement form. This acknowledgement is an effective way to ensure that as an employer, you've made an effort to make sure that all employees are informed of workplace policies and expectations. By signing the acknowledgement, the employee affirms that you have communicated the contents of the policy and they have been informed of what you've wanted them to receive. Keep these acknowledgements in the employee's personnel file. But don't assume that your employees have read and understand your policies just because you've distributed a handbook and they've assigned an acknowledgement form. Reinforce the messages with other forms of communication. Consider trainings or presentations and other forms of communication appropriate to your organization and employees. Perhaps one of the most important parts of managing your policy is deciding who will be responsible for making changes and how policy updates will be handled. Employers should establish a point person to be in charge of updating the employee handbook as necessary when employment laws or internal policies need to change. I suggest conducting a full review periodically, I would say once a year, to ensure that policy reflects current regulations and organizational practices. When developed and managed well, human resource policy avoids misunderstandings between employees and employers about their rights and